And then you made me.
So
So
now
sorry.
it's in progress. Yeah.
Okay. Back to my question. Any thoughts coming to anybody when I tell my story or others?
Very relatable, actually. Uh, most of the labels you identify, whatever you were sharing, the sick child, being nice, somebody who's flexible, somebody who's always, uh, you know, doing good for others, and it's totally relatable. All those things, and to some extent, it did empower, but at some point of time, it really stopped working, and yeah, so very relatable, whatever you're sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
I also resonate with what Sindhu said, and
Mhm.
I feel that with time labels change, but
Yeah.
labels are labels, and there's always a label. And somehow I don't know, it could start as a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but even the good things run away with us,
Yeah.
and then one feels very trapped, one feels very hemmed in. So in case there's any initial aha about the label also, it quickly vaporizes.
Yeah. I agree. I agree completely.
And I just have a point.
Yes.
And if you're growing with many labels, not just one, because you're interacting with different
Yeah.
people, right? You may
Yeah.
be labeled in a certain way at home, you may be labeled in a certain way outside. Your identity becomes confused. You don't even know who you are. Um, and unless you're extremely self-aware and you understand to separate your identity from these, which is tough, you grow up with all kinds of confused notions about yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so true. I mean, whatever was said till now, I agree that, you resonate it with very easily. Because I guess this happens with everyone, but we may not be speaking about it so loudly about this topic because labeling happens in, I guess, everybody's life, good
yeah.
or bad. And the way Mala said, sometimes it is good that you get some inspiration from that and then you perform better,
Mhm.
but other time it could become deteriorating when it starts becoming a burden. So I
Yeah.
guess I would look at it as both the sides. Sometimes it becomes a motivation because somebody is
Yeah.
labeling like that and you want to kind of, either you want to really prove it or
Yeah.
you take that as a point for yourself to improve further.
Correct.
But
Correct.
some point in life when you said, that statement that no, I don't want to be nice, or sometimes I could resonate that with you because many a times I'm the person in the family who plans the things. Let's say just a small example, when you go on vacation, and sometimes I feel no, I don't want to plan anything, I want others to plan for me, I just want to go and enjoy.
Yeah.
So I could connect with that one statement very fast, not from a nice perspective, but from a perspective where you don't want to do certain things and you want others to do that, and you want to relax and enjoy that. So I guess yes, it really resonated well, whatever has been said till now. Thank you.
Perfect. So the idea of this survey was to find out all about labels and not really land on I'm saying this or I'm it was just to explore what is really happening in the world of labeling. And we did land on a couple of really insightful things I'm going to share. So first off, we chose the looking glass theory, where this is how it kind of shows up. We imagine how we appear to others and consider their perceptions and evaluations of us. It's not about us really knowing who we are and then showing up as that, but we are imagining how others are seeing us and then aligning to that visual, that verbal, that narrative. We interpret the judgments and reactions of others and integrate their feedback into our self-image. Much like if somebody said, "Oh, this one's lazy," always been like that. Yeah, now I am aligning to it. I'm actually using it sometimes to get away with things because yeah, you say I'm lazy. I can be lazy. And finally, we develop our self concept based on these perceived judgments. So that's the Looking Glass story. And just as a disclaimer, there are many, many theories available that people have worked on to figure out the impact of labeling on identity. But I chose the Looking Glass theory. So here's the fun part now it starts. So that's the demographic of people. That's the age, 40 to 50. We had 55% of people that were in that age group. And I'm going to slowly go through these slides because it takes a minute to just register all of this information. But this is the fun part. Most of the group was between 40 to 50 people. And it's not like we didn't send it to a younger lot. But somehow, I think maybe I am that age category and I know that kind of people, and which is why most of them landed here. We had the 59% of the people were 59 people were male and 89 people were females. So that's the big question. Do you relate to the said negative labels given to you today? And we are at sometimes, look at the sometimes, the yes, maybe. The stark no is at like 39 people out of 140 said stark no, I don't. Rest. Did the labels given to you by family members, peers, teachers, or authority figures contribute to how you viewed yourself? We can again see that 50% of the people said yes. Then there is sometimes which is 23, maybe which is 16, and like a definite no is like 9.5%. So at the end of it, we realized 95% of the people across the board were labeled one way or another. Not good, bad, ugly, but just that they were labeled a particular way growing up. Have you ever challenged or rejected labels as a child, a young adult, an adult? If you can see how that red is kind of becoming smaller. As a child, we align. And then as a young adult, from 50, it went to 44. And as an adult, it went from 44 to 26. And that's the age group. That's the late 30s, early 40s to 50s. That's when we start questioning, challenging. And also there is the one thing that I had the conversations with people which came out was, everybody said, time kahan tha? Ye sab sochne ke liye, you were doing your work and you were buying your next house and, getting the right car and sending kids to school and all of that. Who had the time to sit and think about this? And I was like, yeah, makes sense. So mostly around 40s to 50s is when we start figuring out who we are and reject or challenge the labels. That's what came up. Have you ever internalized the labels given to you, even if they were negative or inaccurate? And 63% people saying yes. I did. I can relate. Do you think these labels influence the way you saw yourself as a child? So I'm looking at maybe, and I'm looking at yes, and I'm also looking at no, and seeing that no is such a small part of the whole gang, like maybe 21 people out of 150. Did these labels shape your belief about your abilities and limitations? Have these labels continued to have effect in your adulthood? So this others is what people wrote. And primarily what they wrote was it's a continuous battle. It's a continuum. You are consciously looking at it saying, this is not working. You're looking at it and saying, but this is not mine. You're looking at it and saying, I want to change, but I can't, it's too tough. So that's the others bit. So the effect, yes, happening. As an adult, do you find yourself living up to or rejecting them? Others was same conversation. The flavor of the conversation was that it's a constant effort. And living up had a lot of people who were given positive labels growing up. How have you worked to redefine or reshape your identity, considering any negative or limiting labels you were given in the childhood? So this is where I got a lot of this is actually have you worked, but I'll share with you the narrative some of the people actually came up with, which is interesting. Do you still carry the labels given to you from your childhood with you today? And remember, 50% of our people were between 40 and 50 years old. Occasionally, frequently, yes. And no is 24%, which equates to 36 people out of 150. Sought professional help, yes is 22%, no is 77%. But a lot of people said they talked to friends and they worked through books, self-help books, reflections. That's what they did. But yeah, didn't go to therapy that much. Have you ever tried to redefine or reclaim the labels given to you in a positive way? Talks about it by itself, the numbers. Have you ever labeled a friend, a peer, a loved friend? This is where I got, most people who are like, oh man, now having all of this thing of, oh my, I was labeled and I went through this. Now this question comes here and I'm like, yeah, I have also done that to others. So, the awareness is what we were trying to build with this survey, and that was happening. Okay, so now we go to, let me just stop the share here and ask you guys, what's coming up for you guys when you see all of these numbers, this data?
One comment, in today's digital world, I think we also seek out for labels which we would want to have. And it comes in the form of all kind of posts that gets into Instagram, Facebook, and thereof also. This is the social environment, not specific to profession though.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it is only growing bigger and bigger, wherein you want to seek validations. And then you get into a spin when you don't get the desired outcomes. Then it leads to all kind of mental stresses and anxieties and all the other illnesses that follow. Plus, on a professional front, it leads to your performance and breakdowns as well. So, in the other observation of the data, it was too much of data too soon that we browsed through. But others actually was a major quantity. In terms of numerical numbers. Now, I'm not sure how do you interpret it, because at times they were number two also.
Yeah, people who did not give a clear yes or no gave their answers. It was in they had a choice to write as well, because we wanted to understand the thinking patterns of people, because that's where the coaching intervention is being observed, discovered from. So if talking like this, and they have been labeled like that, that means that's a data point for us. So when we hear people talking like this, we can take them deeper to a space where we question their identity and how it is entwined with, or how it is getting impacted with, how they're showing up because of that narrative, and where is that coming from? Which is why that option was given to write. And it did. I will share some of the statements that I got from people and how they contributed to this write-up. Anything else?
Bhavna, so I think the word that came to my mind when I was viewing these slides, there was too much information to digest, but the word that really stood out for me was comparison. And the fact that, it's not just in research that we are doing paired comparisons or looking at comparisons between groups, but actually that's the way we are wired to think. So there's always this comparison between me and another and me. And I think like Sanjay's point around social media, this whole thing about projection and posturing, in whatever
Mhm.
ways it may be. Um, I think, yeah, these are some of the thoughts that are there. And then there are also, I think, on the other end, and you know, also see the labeling on that side in terms of some amount of loss of agency, in terms of
Yes.
some learned helplessness,
Mhm.
and I think I can relate it to that labeling space.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That loss of agency is something that is something that I felt. Like I didn't have a voice, I didn't have a choice, but this was something that was drawn out for me. This is who I am. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Mala. Anybody else?
Bhavna, if I may.
Yes.
Uh, what I realized from this data and the discussions that we've been having around this is that it is utterly normal for people to label us and for us to label people, because that's how we make sense. This is sense making, right?
Yes,
This is
yes,
sense making of the world.
yes, yes.
And while we think of it as like a label on a jam bottle, too sticky, can't be removed, has to be steamed out and whatever. So, and the worst thing is that it doesn't come off easy, right? You scrub it,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
something stickiness remains, and it makes the bottle sticky. And there's a
There's still something residual left.
yeah, it's residue. So yes, that's what the word label kind of that image comes to mind. But it is normal. It is because everybody has been labeled and everybody is labeling.
Yeah.
And as coaches, I mean, come to think of it, see, all the psychometric tools we use, all the 16 personality profiles we use, all of the zodiac signs we use, all of anything we use has an element or a very strong element of labeling.
Yeah.
So for a long time, we grew up believing, a Virgo is like that, and a Sagittarian is like that, and an Aquarius is like that. And all of our biases, our stereotypes, these are all, they all are us.
Yes.
And so understanding this is terrific. And I think as we become more experienced, and I'm not surprised that it is 40 plus age group that seems to have responded more to it, because by that time you start making, you have enough retrospective you can look at in the back view mirror to see what is happening. So that is not surprising at all in that sense. So I think our entire focus can be towards, again, as Mala was saying, it does not become limiting. It does not become something that makes us lose our agency.
Yeah.
And it does not become something that gives that shifts our locus of control and identity outwards. So the whole process is to keep bringing it inwards. That's all. Long one. So, sorry.
Well said. I love everybody's saying the metaphor is so nice, but I don't know if you guys have interacted with Neha, but I learned metaphors from Neha because she only talks in metaphors. And for a
See,
while,
look at the label. Can you believe that?
but
Do you see the labeling happening right here?
glimpse of that, Neha. No.
Now she's forcing me to talk in metaphor, which I didn't intend to.
But it is so you. Well, the point that I'm trying to make is she comes up with beautiful labels that puts things in perspective and makes a lot of sense. Neha, take the compliment, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, so so the idea of this research was to just create awareness of what is, not to talk about it's right or wrong, or you should do this or do that, or step away or lean in or leverage or not, to just say this is also there. And it may at some point, give or take away the power. as long as you're aware of that. That's all. That's the point of this. When it comes to how do you take this in, like, how do you take what you're receiving from this research and bring it into the coaching space for your client? Yeah, Mala, you're saying how has it impacted your work? Sorry, I'll have to wait. Yes, it has. How has it? That's what I was going to get to. Thank you for asking that. I realized till the time I had not started on my level 3 journey. My style of coaching was one way, and now after post doing that level 3 education, the style has changed a little bit because I'm going deeper and faster into conversation. Like in the first 5 or 6 minutes, I go down to the belief level. I mean, let's not talk about delegation and time management, because that's not what the issue is. So this research actually gave me some of the words, some of the things that I was hearing all the while, but not connecting that this is where it is coming from. So self-perception, and self-perception driven by external environment contributors or an internal landscape and narrative. That self-perception is the anchor for most of how we show up in the world. And so, for example, if I hear in the narrative of a person, it's coming again and again of this is how I am, this is who I am, I was always like this. Bhakti just mentioned in the beginning, I'm a people's person. That works for her. She has identified it. It is, like Neha said, it is a very normal thing to understand our own self by categorizing it in a particular manner. However, as a coach, if you're observing that that's something that is coming in the way of movement, of progress, of transformation, then you bring it to the table and say, well, while I hear you, I'm also seeing the results it is getting, and I'm wondering how that is sitting with you. That knowledge that while you're being authentic, and that's also something that I've heard. But I'm authentic. That's how I come. This is how I speak. I am what? I'm direct. I'm cut and dry. All of these are labels. The moment someone says I'm cut and dry, and I'm like, would you tell me more? What do you mean by that? No, and where is that coming from? So have you always been like this? I've always been like that. Even my mom used to say, oh, so who was the first person who said that? And that's where more digging starts to happen, more unearthing starts to happen. Where are these beliefs coming from? And it then becomes about a belief work rather than how this person shows up in interactions, in professional interactions with his team, let's say, for example. One person said, I do not tolerate mediocrity. Now, that's a very, very normal, simple thing. However, it could be turned around to where is this really like a belief? Where is this coming from and what is it doing to him? What he is doing with this belief to others as a leader is a separate conversation. But let's explore what has this resulted in. And I've had people tell me, I'm realizing I'm exhausted. Because mediocrity is something that he cannot tolerate within his own self. So he is a workaholic. He works 16, 17 hours a day. He gets up at 4 o'clock and starts with one like 5-kilometer run. And then, so that's what he's doing to himself. And he's exhausted. He's physically exhausted. He's mentally exhausted. Serving that belief of mediocrity cannot be tolerated. Because somebody gave him that while growing up. And that's how when we talk to our clients, there are a couple of things we can do. One, create self-awareness about what our internal narrative and landscape looks like, shows up as, and is contributing to. So for example, if my internal narrative is pushy and I'm a very aggressive person, I'm an assertive person, I'm a natural leader. I've heard people say that. Okay, so let's just explore. What does that really mean? Where is it coming from? So one is self-awareness, and then there is about challenging that limiting belief. Hang on 1 second. Wait till I lose my. Can people see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Bhavna, we can see you.
I suddenly lost the screen. So challenging the limiting beliefs is another thing. First, establish what's the belief, how is it limiting, and how do we create into an empowering belief to change it. So for example, if it is mediocrity cannot be tolerated, if that's the belief, explore around the whole thing. If that belief now has become limiting because it's not allowing you to, let's say, live in the moment, because there is a chase that you're after, the chase for perfection. So in the moment, whatever is happening is not being enjoyed. So then the empowering new belief starts to be around, let's say, mediocrity also exists. It's an acceptance. And then you decide whether it's a phase or you want to let go or live in the moment or allow yourself, others, so on and so forth. Checking for narratives. What are some of the words that people repeat? How they feel? What is their body language when they're saying it? So observing that in our clients, when they're saying certain things, sometimes women I've seen are apologetic about being tough or being driven or being, for the lack of a better word, like hard ass. They're apologetic. So they'll say, you know what, people look at me as very tough. And then there's a very apologetic giggle after that. And I would, at that point, I stop them and say, what just happened? You said one statement, but there was a body gesture that was something else and it didn't match. What's happening there? Why is there no harmony in the thought and how you feel in your body about it? So it becomes very somatic. You can see in people. Then there is that mindset shift. It's that growth mindset. It's not stuck in the past. It's not who I was, who I am, or who I can be, who I need to be, who I want to be. It's a very future focused. It's a very action oriented, choice based actions, that kind of a conversation. So far, just a check. How are we doing? Very quiet.
Good going, Bhavna.
Is that okay? Is that making sense?
Yeah, very engaging.
पर
Yep.
यार बात तो करना पड़ेगा. Engaging में सब चुप हो जाएंगे तो कैसे होगा?
So I don't know whether we have time, but I feel comfortable to share something personal, and if you want to,
Yes,
you can indulge me a little bit to talk.
yes.
So it's interesting now. We laugh about it in the family, and me and my sister are the key players in this. But my father used to always have this great sense of humor, and he would always say that. And मेरा labeling था पढ़ंतु है, very studious, always pacing, studying, cramming before the exams. And my sister would just breeze through things. She wouldn't study too much. She would just give, and she's 5 years older to me. So she would just sort of breeze in, make fun and laughter, and not get too stressed before the exams. And she would sail through aram se. And I would really be, nahi, padna hai, till. So my father would always say, Rajesh is hardworking, Renu is smart, you know. And now, of course, whenever we meet, we always wink at each other and say, there's a smarter one, the hardworking one. But I now, in the context of today's discussion, I'm thinking, over the years, perhaps that has subconsciously crept into me without me realizing it, because it's more of mirth and laughter around it, because my dad always had a sense of humor. He had a way of saying things in a fun way. But maybe I have always felt that even now I have to do that extra bit to prove myself. I look up to people who I think are smarter, and there's sometimes excessive reverence for those people who get it easily. And I realized that, okay, maybe my own bias about the fact that there are people who don't have to try too hard to do well. And maybe therefore I look up to people a lot more than sometimes. And then sometimes, therefore, the thing is, okay, I need to, I'm not good enough. So I need to work harder myself to prove that, I can be smart. So somewhere I was realizing that while this discussion was happening, that whole thing was flashing in front of my eyes, that what was seemingly a very family kind of thing and jokingly said, maybe has something that has crept in without me realizing it over the years. And in fact, even when I was working and I was a leader, and one of my subordinates would say, Rajesh is like that student in class. Even now, as a boss, he has to come prepared for every meeting. Like, we are the ones who should be doing all the hard work, but he wants to read before he comes for a meeting. But so I don't know. Just felt like sharing this.
Yeah.
Hard working versus smart working labeling.
In fact, the other thing that came out from this research was that it's a very self-fulfilling prophecy like labeling business. And it becomes like a continuum. How we've labeled is how we identify ourselves. And then because we are like that, we behave more like that. And the world acknowledges us more like that. And sometimes the problem is the starting of the labeling. So much like if I take this example of yours of, your sister is smarter. Now imagine, I encourage you to have this conversation with her to how does she feel about being smart and not maybe committed or hardworking for that matter, because she's just smart. She's like a smart took. Smart doesn't equate to intelligence, right? So how is her interpretation of this? So, like I said, the other thing that was coming across is it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, which kind of is a continuum. So at some point, we have to think about things and then break it. I know I told you that I'm going to share some of the things that people have talked about. And so is everybody able to see this? Is it readable? I'm just going to make it bigger.
You can move it to a presentation mode, then it will be a little more.
Oh yeah, smart. Is this readable? This part here.
Yep.
Okay, so just take a moment. This is what people said when they were being given positive labels.
Bhavna, would you be able to share this with us later? I just wanted to ask you.
Absolutely. You want it? I will share. So actually, all the 150 people got the report and the summary and the things. But what I'll do is I'll share it with Akanksha. So whoever was here will kind of get it.
Yeah, would love to go through.
So
Interesting, actually. I was so long, I was just thinking that we have been talking about how level has impacted us, and there seems to be an iota of challenge and negativity about labels. And I was thinking that how labels have motivated, how labels have supported, and this is coming out exactly here. I was just thinking of coming up with that, and it comes up. So I guess it has the other side as well, which is very nicely reflected by some.
yeah.
And also in coaching, Bhavna, we often say, who do you want to be? Who are you being? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
So we're only trying to, you said the challenge is with the origin of the label. We're just bringing that origin in words, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's another point. Just like to add a quick one. A person I was coaching kept saying that, I suffer from imposter syndrome. and this was a recurring motive for few sessions, and at the end I sort of, and he would come back and quote, and he'd done a lot of reading about imposter syndrome online. And I told him that at the end of the day, it's also a label, right? You may realize that there are many traits that you read about, and you are looking at majority of people feel like this or when they suffer. But at the end of the day, if you take the imposter syndrome as a very serious label, then like you said, Bhavna, it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start seeing things which may not be there.
Ah,
But you're trying desperately to just say, "Haan, ab mujhe pata chala." See, this also qualifies that I've got imposter syndrome. So,
correct.
you almost make it like literally a thing in front of you, and then I have to live up to that now.
Yeah, there is a confirmation bias, no? It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
funny because one idea and you want to attach everything to that idea, saying यहाँ पे ये है, यहाँ पे भी ये है.
Yeah.
Speak of imposter syndrome, I wonder how can one self-identify imposter syndrome? जब मैं कह ही रही हूँ, I am very qualified, I have done this, but I don't believe in this. If you're able to view somebody else with an imposter syndrome, it makes sense. How can you view yourself with an imposter syndrome? Then I believe it's a label very definitely that has been you. It's a pseudo label.
Yeah, it
But
works.
and it's a big one because there are now imposter syndrome coaches also.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a big niche.
So I mean, as a observer, I can say so and so has an imposter syndrome. You have an imposter syndrome. How can I say myself I have an imposter syndrome?
Well, so Rajesh, just curious, this person actually came in the conversation and claiming you in any way did not say it sounds like this or are
No,
you
in,
into
in
that?
fact, the whole coaching was around executive presence, which I do. And during that, he said, one of the things that comes in the way of me building executive presence is my imposter syndrome. And he seems well read. He had done a lot of work, and he said that everybody tells me I'm very capable and talented, but it's just that I don't have enough confidence in myself, and I don't take praise. So he was describing all the things that he felt fitted in his understanding of imposter syndrome. And apparently his boss also once told him that you suffer from imposter syndrome. So the boss also sort of gave him a label, which ratified his own thinking.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, and I'm sure you did that to explore, this inherent belief and where it's coming from, and then actually breaking that,
Yeah.
exploring that, which is fueling this way of thinking. So we look at thinking patterns, no? We look at how people view their world and thinking patterns, and then decide what the next question is going to be. Very interesting. How did it turn out finally?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was a question to general. No, in fact, towards the end, when we had that final meeting with the tripartite meeting, the boss, in fact, again brought that up, and that imposter syndrome came in the discussion also. And the boss said that, look, all of us have go through it. It's not that you alone, and everybody has some shades of imposter syndrome. So the idea is to work around it. But he still believes that he has to work on it. It shows up a lot of in the 6 or 7 sessions. There was a lot of awareness and calm, and I kept telling him that you don't have to believe in the label. Much as you've read about it and much as you believe in it, and there was a lot of working around it. In fact, I shared a lot of resources. He wanted proof. He was a very left brain, so show me proof of how many people that who go through it and how many people have worked around it. So it was interesting, but very deep rooted belief in that.
Okay. Let me just show you.
I just have a comment hearing Rajesh that sometimes I think as coaches, we also have to be mindful that we are not infected by the doubt of the imposter syndrome and we don't lose grounds
Yeah.
in what we are setting out to coach with, because we also we also absorb.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mala, you're right. There were shades sometimes when these discussions, I would sort of identify that with myself when my hard working versus smart working would show up in those kinds. So maybe I am an imposter syndrome here, trying to be smart when I am actually the hardworking guy who has to do that much more.
Yeah. So here are some more statements, and just give it like 30 seconds.
know, we are out of time, but sometimes I find that, people say like long relationships, people we have lived with in our families have labeled us in a certain way. And it is like a battle because they talk about you as 30 years back, you're like this, or 40 years back, you're like this. So it's almost as if, the right to grow up is also something that requires permission.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's a culture thing. It's here a lot or it's everywhere. But definitely, our culture, definitely. I agree.
कि आप ऐसे थे अब आप ऐसे ही रहो.
ये
शुरू
लेबल
से
आपको सूट होता है, ये लेबल आप पे सूट होता है.
हो ना हो पर आप ऐसे हो. I'm saying that it's sometimes I think self-work also, I find that to step out and to work with a coach, because there is so much energy getting lost in that tussle of, I want to do something. I think the environment may not support it.
Yeah, I'm just being mindful of the time. There are many more slides that I can do about, but I know this is where we have to end. One thing I can do is I can share the report, and there is also an executive summary, like three slide thing that you can just if you don't want to read the whole data and theories, you can just look at those 3 pages and get some more insights out of it and for yourself. So before,
Yeah.
yes,
Sorry, if I may request, and if other people are okay, could you actually sort of share the last slide or something to sort of to close the conversation, and if the very key things that emerge for you from this research, then it could be a closure for the session if people are willing to spend 5 minutes more.
yes, please, let's hear from everybody. If
Yeah.
there is, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely okay.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I give you 1 second. I'm going to show you the insights page. And talk about from here. So, key takeaways. We've talked about the self-fulfilling prophecies. We've talked about it being, hang on, here. 100% people are labeled from an early childhood, both positive and negatively. Almost 94% of people have labeled others. Labels do have an impact on the way one sees themselves, and this impact can be positive or negative, both. Labels come from family, extended family, friends, teachers. We know that, all of us. We tend to consciously start being aware of the impact of labels by the time we are mature adults. We did talk about this. Impact of label diminishes by the time we reach our 40s. Cannot certainly say that, and this is something what Prateek was talking about, that negative labels have a negative impact and positive labels have a positive impact. It depends on who you are and what else is happening in your environment. What is your upbringing like? What is your culture like? And how you see. So, for example, if you were labeled negatively, you can use it as a motivator and try and push yourself further, or you can let it bring you down. So either ways, it is not a defined thing that a negative label will have a negative impact on a person. Labels can also be self-imposed, and the way a person labels themselves can impact their self-perception. People adhering to labels have a strong inner narrative that is sometimes not kind to their own selves. So it's slightly berating, it's slightly criticizing of self. And that's the part which I was talking about. If you hear it in your client, you bring it to the table. This can work in favor and against a person's self-growth and achievement. The labels positive or negative
think Bhavna's screen froze.
Yeah, not able to hear Bhavna.
Can you see the
Or her
second?
screen.
Yeah, it
He's
got
back.
Yeah, we can see
then,
the
I
slide.
guess.
You're back.
Sorry, I missed that.
Bhavna, you froze for a moment. We couldn't hear you, so it's fine. I think probably just the last 30, 40 seconds.
Okay, so these are the fun bits. I particularly want you to see this. 34% people gravitated towards professions like, and this is in that 150 cohort. Doctor, therapist, healer, coach, while almost 57% of the people had business person, entrepreneur, management consultant. So look at that 50%, 34%, and then there were 34 different professions other than these. So it's not like it was just a very fixed, only coaches were given this survey, or only certain kind of people were given this survey. Most chosen response to the feelings that labels generated was concerned, while other most selected responses were indifferent, acceptable, manipulated. Most use positive labels for children are responsible, talented, smart, mature, helpful. Most use negative labels, aggressive, difficult, defiant, unfocused. And 38 other descriptive words people gave back to me. I had given them options of like, let's say 10 or 12 or 15 to choose from. And people wrote happily. Yeah, this is the the writer. That labeling theory is just one perspective among many in understanding identity formation and behavior. While it sheds light on the influence of labels, it doesn't discount individual agency or the role of personal values, aspiration, and social support in shaping identity. So identity is like this giant mountain, and this labeling is one little stone on that mountain. We're just exploring that little stone. And then there are other takeaways and highlights that are coming from here. How does that sound, Rajesh? Did that work?
Yeah, thank you so much.
The sharing of insights.
Yes, Bhavna, thank you.
Thank
It
you,
was
thank
very
you.
useful.
Yeah.
So
It kind of
can you just all
funnels-
quickly tell me one thing that you're doing?
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that is a takeaway for you guys from this conversation today.
For me, I think, I've been labeled, I have labeled people, and to the most part of it, it's worked for me. And what I realized through this is that I've carried on to some labels given to me by some people compared to others. I think Bhavna is not here. Yeah. So it's how my map of the world is shaped, who I give importance to, and why I hold on to certain people's labels that's been given to me compared to others, probably to feel a sense of belonging or acceptance. I don't know. So, who is the one who's labeling me has also been important, I think, for me. That's something. Yeah. Bhavna, we lost you in between.
Came back. I don't like I said, Murphy's Law. Everything has to happen. Light going, light coming. Everything has to happen today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Mala, Pratik.
Yeah, I think, thank you, labels, because I think they really have contributed to the profession being born and keeping coaches relevant.
Yes. Kudos to that.
ये लेबल्स हटा दो तो हमारा तो फिर आधा काम धंधा तो बिल्कुल चला ही जाएगा, भावना.
us promote social labeling very actively.
No, don't promote. It's enough promoted. मैंने तो, oh gosh, it's उसमें हमको कुछ करना नहीं है. We just have to. I think we're providing probably the net to hold it for people who want to examine it.
Yeah. Just hold the space. Correct.
Yeah.
For me, Bhavna, it is the way I heard all of you while sharing your experiences. And the way I take it is labeling is integral part of our life. That would remain, because that's how, I guess, as a human we are. It's part of our life that you label someone or somebody else labels it, and it works both ways, positive or negative. The way as an individual you look at it. So the way Mala said, right, when it goes into negative connotation, I guess that's the time, if I'm willing to come out of it, I need a coach. So from a coaching angle, I will look at it that way, that, what impact that labeling could really have on that person. And in case while coaching, if you encounter a situation where labeling could be one of the reason for it, then this gives some pointers for you to dwell upon it further to kind of help your coachee. So I would remember this session as that, where if I encounter really something like that from a coaching perspective. But yes, as a life or overall perspective, I guess I accept, or I take it as it's a part of life and you have to live with it. Only thing, do not allow it to get you into a negative zone. If it can give you positive energy, I guess that's good. So thank you for that session.
Perfect.
For me, I think the key takeaway was what you said about that being a part of the mountain, the stone, and to be aware of that, and to go beyond that, and negotiate that as one of the key words also was for ourselves, most importantly as coaches, because that shows up in conversations sometimes, and also for our own help our clients negotiate and go beyond the way they define these labels and their impact on their lives.
Thank you. Well said, Rajesh. Yes,
Bhavna, just one quick question. Is it okay that we could share your report with some people who are not respondents and not here?
absolutely. You can,
Thank
because
you.
there are no names here, and the more people read about it, the more awareness gets created. So I'm very happy about that.
Thank you, Bhavna.
Sanjay ji?
Goes on to prove that people have multitudes, so labels are here to stay. And I don't think so that's going to change.
Yes.
Coaching standpoint, I think labels are more of a content, and we need to understand the context as we probe more with our coaches. So that's how one should be looking at least I would look at when I interact with my coach.
Perfect. Pratik?
Yeah, so I was trying to connect with I did a session last Saturday, was my session on a book, Reflection, Positive Intelligence. And it's a wonderful, impactful book for me. I was just trying to correlate that this labeling is more for our convenience that we do, because we want to put blocks, identity modular blocks, so that it helps us. It helps us be aware of our surroundings. Say everything is open, everything is undefined. It makes us very uncomfortable. So I think correlating to this philosophy of positive intelligence, it's more a left brain activity that we do to put certain blocks out there. And it's very difficult to move to the right brain, to stay curious, to explore without defining, without concluding. But that's where the aim of that whole philosophy was. So I found a beautiful correlation between this session and last Saturday that I hosted.
Thank you. Rajiv, you've been awfully quiet. Would you want to jump in quickly?
Yeah, I was mainly reflecting because we all have been labeled. We have labeled I shouldn't say we. I have been labeled, and I have liberally labeled others and continue to do so. an experience that I'm doing that even while I am coaching. So I think awareness or rehearing this, it will enhance my awareness. I don't think I have liberated enough to stop doing this. So, but awareness is the first step. So we'll practice.
Thank you for that. I think we are all in the first steps only. There is no one here who can claim that, oh, we don't label or we don't adhere to them or expect them, want them, so on and so
Sure.
forth. Thank you, guys.
I always love
We are in step 1. You are in 3rd degree, Bhavna.
No worry. I can say, oh, this is also late. Now it's a bias. Huh? Every time I am thinking or I'm in a conversation with a client, I'm like, is this labeling or is this not? Did I bring my bias in? Is my bias off labeling? Oh man. So this is, I have driven myself batty on it. I'm on step 1 only. Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Prateek, Bhakti, Sanjay, Sindhu, Rajiv, Mala. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much,
much.
Bhavna.
Yeah.
Very stimulating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.